Good afternoon. I'm Betty Logan Waskewitz, a native of Beaufort who has been here for more years than I like to think about. I'm a member of First Presbyterian Church and have been asked to tell you a little bit about HELP of Beaufort and how it came to be. In the early 1960s, possibly 1961-62, the young mothers of First Presbyterian requested permission to form a new circle that would meet in the evening. At our very first meeting, we had a letter from Charleston Presbytery about a program that they had started in Charleston called HELP, which was to help people in need of almost anything. And so we thought it sounded very good, so we sent them a donation of $25. The next month, prospect of help came up again, and we suddenly realized, wait a minute, we have people in Beaufort who are in need of these things. Why are we sending our money to Charleston? Let's investigate this and start it ourselves. So with a few meetings and talks, we came up with the idea, yes, we could do it. And we decided to begin with used clothing, good, clean, used clothing. And we had one member, Natalie Waddell, whose husband was our state senator at that time from Beaufort County. And she said, well, I have lots of free time during the week because Jim is in Columbia. I will take care of the starting and try to get it organized and started. So she did. And with the help of the other members of the circle, it began. We were able to get a building that we could use from the city. Before World War II, on Pigeon Point Road, where the city park is on Pigeon Point Road, they had built, I can't remember whether it was 3 or maybe 5, duplex apartments, all built out of concrete blocks with cement floors, nothing very fancy but serviceable. After the war, they were no longer needed, so the city had taken them over and used them for office space. And then they decided on an arts and crafts section. With the 3 buildings there, they had an extra one, so they gave us permission to use one for our help location. And we began, as I said, with the clothing, and it gradually grew and grew and grew. I was a member of the circle. There were about 20 members, 25 members, young mothers, who were members of the circle, so everybody helped. There are only 6 members of us now, and 2 of us are original members of the circle that started in 1961. But it was beginning to get very big and very complicated, and so when Reverend Frank Sells came in 1977, 78, somewhere in that area, help had gotten so big and so important that it needed to needed to have more help with it than one little circle could provide. So they formed a committee to take over help. And it's very much like the board that works with it now. There was a president and a secretary and a treasurer. I will say that by 1978, the circle had grown to about 64 members, which had given us a lot of help. It was supported by the city. And for many years after it went to a board, our circle insisted that First Presbyterian Church, the first Sunday of every month, was Help Sunday, and everybody brought supplies for help. And on Monday morning, one of the men of the church would gather them all up and take them to the help location. The beginning of Meals on Wheels. This program began before HELP. Kitty Harley, who was a member of the First Presbyterian Church, she had the thought about the fact that there were so many people in Beaufort who didn't have proper food. It began with 4 people being taken a meal at lunchtime, Monday through Friday each week. That took off, and we all know the story of that program, which is now run countywide. And I can even tell you a very wild story about that program, which is now run by the county, of the day I almost burned our house down while I was out taking my turn delivering meals. It seems that I had put something on the stove to heat up the leftovers from supper the night before for lunch, because Stan always came home for lunch. I put it on and turned the burner on high, thinking I would turn it down to very low before I left the building. And I went to town and went to pick up the meals, and for some reason the restaurant that we got them from at that time was running behind, and I had to kill about 10 or 15 minutes looking in the windows of the stores downtown while I waited. Got the four meals, and I had delivered 3, and as I was on the way to the 4th house, I suddenly remembered I did not turn the stove down. And I thought, shall I go home or shall I deliver this last meal? And I decided it was the street that I was on was the home of the last person, and I just go by and give it to her quickly and get home. And so I ran by, and I almost threw the lunch at the poor lady and said, I've got to go, I left my stove on high. Well, fortunately, back in those days, we could leave our houses unlocked. And a friend of my youngest son came by to see him. He was out mowing grass for somebody, and so there was no one home. But the young man could see through the glass in the kitchen door that the stove was on high and the pot was smoking and the house was full of smoke. So he tried the door, went in and turned off the burner. And by the time I got home, my son had also arrived, and he and his friend were very busy pushing up windows so that we could get rid of all the smoke that had accumulated. Stan had a very slim lunch that day. HELP has always been a project of the evening circle at the First Presbyterian Church, and there's still just there are only 2 members in that circle now who were original members. There are only 6 of us, and several years ago we started meeting in the afternoon because we decided older ladies should not be out moving around in the dark, so we met in the afternoon because we didn't have to have a sitter anymore. And so in this spring, we decided that the time had come for us to give up the circle, and the 5 of us could join one of the other 4 circles that are now in the church. Allie Guile, who had been the treasurer for HELP for many years, is getting ready to move to Texas to live with one of her children. So she was our Bible study teacher, and without Allie, I don't think we could make it. So we have closed our books, and we decided to divide the money that we had left in the bank between HELP and the Home for Thornwell, the Home for Children supported by the Presbyterian Church in South Carolina. And when we think about it, to come from somewhere around the early 1960s until 2018 is not a bad record for a group of little old ladies. Thank you.